Welcome back to the Warlords of Wall Street. Now, for the purposes of today's podcast, the big news for us was Tesla's disappointing Investors Day. It was the first one that they've ever done. There were high hopes from everyone. And I guess we'll just begin with my takeaways, the negatives. When asked when we would be seeing a new model or some redesign of consequence, Musk avoided all the questions and didn't just avoid them, said he wasn't going to answer that right now. And that is just the wrong way to handle a question. Better would have been we have some very exciting designs on the board and we'll be revealing those shortly. That would have been an answer, non answer. But as opposed to say we're just not going to address that now, that was not received very well. Um, I was hopeful that we would get some news on a redesign. Uh, Elon hasn't done anything in the way of changing the way a Model S looks, I don't think, since 2015 or 16. About the only thing they did maybe a year or so ago is they changed the interior. Although I am a fan of what he's accomplishing, we're kind of at a crossroads for him. He rang the bell. He is forcing everybody to come to the party with their electric cars. And that's the good news. He gets congratulations for that. He gets a lot of kudos. He's changing the world for the better in that respect. However, the other side of that coin is he rang the bell and Mercedes answered, BMW answered, everyone has answered. And although he's got a huge lead and his efficiencies are unparalleled right now in auto manufacturing, the electric cars and the platforms they go on, that won't remain the case forever. It's a little tough to beat the Bavarians when it comes to engineering. Although he's doing an excellent job so far, I think that the days are numbered where Tesla is going to get to enjoy a 50 times multiple on their earnings when the likes of General Motors and Ford trade at single digits. So, one of the other things that came out of his investors meeting is that they have an update for the new Mexico based manufacturing facility, and it should be finished, they said, by 24-25, which is exciting. I think that's going to give him another leg up that he's going to need to be that much more competitive when all the other big boys start showing up with their products. Uh, I don't suspect if he's unwilling to answer the question today about there being anything in the pipeline, you can't introduce a brand new car on a brand new platform and get that all done in 18 months. It just has never happened. It takes a while to spool up a whole new factory, retool for all of that. So I'm thinking that we may be stuck with the same old boring Tesla looking cars for another 4 or 5 years. I'm thinking certainly three, because I couldn't imagine that he would build the new factory down in Mexico and not have a new car and a new platform come out on that. The uh, uh, the news on his new lithium factory was excellent. That's coming online next year, and I think that's going to be a big winner for him. The fact that he's going to be able to open up his charging stations to everyone else, every other type of car, that's going to allow him to give a discount on charging to his Tesla models, and that's going to create a revenue source that doesn't exist today when he upcharges every Ford or Mercedes that tries to charge at a Tesla station. And he agreed to that after meeting with the administration and them accepting him at face value, even though he doesn't have union workforce. The Biden administration kowtowed to Tesla and has now decided they'll allow him to drink from the golden chalice when it comes to government money and support for the electric car industry going forward. That was smart on his part. He's now going to be eligible for government money. He's going to be included in all the talks. And on top of it, he can open up the charging stations, and that probably ends up making him a ton of money that no one's projecting today. So those are a bunch of reasons why I liked it. Well, the uh, the market didn't like what it heard. And today, Tesla took a big slap on the nose. So it turns out that the little bit of money that we started to make on that, the market giveth and the market taketh away. And that also happened to be the case when the news came out that the 10-year bond broke 4% for the first time in an awful lot of years. And it stayed there all day long. So that has to go back to just before we had the banking crisis in '08, '09. That's about the highest rate that the 10-year has seen since '07. So unfortunately, we are now having to engage in the conversation we've been talking about for a couple of weeks. Higher interest rates for longer affect corporate profits. Corporate profits are being revised down. They continue to be revised down. And we're almost at a point now with the S&P 500. Some of the projections I'm seeing out there have the S&P 500 barely making a couple of percent this year, or I should say corporate earnings only being about 2% this year. That's going to end up continuing to make things a little rocky in the market, in my opinion. The banks didn't like what they were hearing about interest rates either. Their spreads that they were awfully happy with for the last 10 or 15 years, they were able to take their dollar to the window, Fed window, and leverage it for 10 at a quarter and half a percent for the longest time. And they were able to lend that to you for 4, 5, 600% profit because they were lending it to you for 3, 4, 5%. Now all of a sudden they're paying 4 and change for their money, and they're only getting 6 and change on a 30-year mortgage. That spread is just not exciting, and the prospect of the rate staying elevated for longer, that diminishes what a bank's profit, they can look forward to in the months to come. As a result, we were glad that when we bought our Direction Regional Bank Fund the other week at 24 and change, we got out of it at 26 as we had discussed previously. So we made a little 7% profit. And so we came back in the other day. I reported we bought it at 23.90. Happy to get it again. Well, unfortunately, we got stopped out at 22.70 today. And when it jumped all the way down to 22.30, I just decided, you know what? All of my charts are saying that's a great entry point. We went back in and we took another little taste at 22.70. I should say 22.30. And the fact that it jumped up a little bit was nice. But we're only in. Remember, I've mentioned it several times now. These leveraged ETFs are no thing to be toyed with. These are short-term trades for us. We're looking to make about 5% or thereabouts, and we're getting out. The fee structure on these ETFs, especially the leveraged ones, are not favorable for long-term holds. That's not what they were designed for. These are sophisticated tools for playing very short horizons. And I just want to make sure that we bring that to your attention when you start looking at them. Even though the charts look like they could be predictable and you're thinking that I can see the patterns that we talk about here for support and resistance levels, but they are very different kinds of animals when it comes to how much they swing in a given day. So be very careful. Our Meta looks like it's going to try to hover in about the 170 range, right about here. This may not be a bad time for first-timers to take a taste. We've been saying that for a while. We think Meta is going to be a beneficiary of the AI. I am a believer in the metaverse. This is an area for the younger generation, but from all indications that I have from my children and my grandchildren, the metaverse is going to be something big, and it's going to be real in the years to come. So I'm not going to bet against it, and I'm not betting against Elon Musk. I'm not betting against the fellas over at Google either. So I don't think Google, Meta, Apple, Microsoft. If you start betting against those guys, I think you're taking your wallet and your life into your hands. Our play on energy with PXD is inching up a little bit. That was nice to see. We'll we didn't discuss adding another ratio to your analytical quiver, if you will. So we're going to talk a little bit today to add one that is very popular, and I rely on it as well. It's called the current ratio. And the current ratio is essentially a corporation's cash as in relationship to all of the bills they're going to have to pay this year. Current, when we're talking about accounting principles, current means within the year or this given fiscal year. A long-term obligation is that which extends beyond a year and can go 5, 10, 20, 30 years. That would be a long-term obligation. But the current ratio speaks to all that it takes to run the business for the year, all your current expenses for the year, and do you have enough cash in your account to match that? If it turns out that there is a dollar for dollar, it's a 1-to-1 ratio, that's considered pretty good. Not bad. I would even go so far as to say average. You want to see a 1-to-1 ratio. However, if it can start extending beyond that 1-to-1 ratio, get to 1.25, 1.5, very good, much better. And if it can get to 2 or 2 times or more, that's much more rare, but that's excellent. If you can find a company that when you look at its current ratio, it's a 2 or better. Imagine, and I'll try to use this as an analogy, imagine your own checking account balance. You're looking at it and you know what your car payment, your house payment, the light bill, the groceries, everything that is involved in your monthly budget. If you added it up, multiplied it by 12, you're going to have a gross number, and that's what your nut is for the whole year. That's what we have to deal with. And imagine if you looked in your check register and you looked today and there was enough cash sitting there at this very minute to be able to cover all your expenses for the year. You'd feel pretty good about that. You would feel better if you looked at your check register and there was twice as much cash available today to take care of all of your bills. You had twice as much as required. You would be well off. And that's pretty much the same analogy that I would use for a corporation. It would be well off and well positioned from a short-term perspective. So that's the S&P looked like it was going to maybe slide down to a 38. It looks like the system rallied to try to keep it around that 39 and change range that a lot of the 200-day moving averages and the short-term 50-day moving averages, they like it right around those levels. We want to see it stay above there, and then the market will only be but so volatile. We happen to have bought a lot of tech over the last little bit, as our portfolio reflects. And when interest rates are going up, it's going to be a little more volatile. But I believe in the quality of the names. And as we've mentioned before, we're dragon riders over here. That doesn't scare us when the market goes up and down. We've seen this for a very long time. And with that, we'll close today. Keep your powder dry. Be safe out there and take your profits where you can find them.